Welcome to Healthy Lifestyle with LaRae. I am LaRae Casdia. Our goal here at Healthy Lifestyle is to inspire, educate, and empower you to fulfill a healthy, emotional, spiritual, and physical life so you can feel empowered to live the life you have always wanted and dreamed. Welcome to the show. I hope you're having a great day. I know I am. I am a life and business transformational success coach, and I help illuminate and empower others to find and embrace their life purpose, live their highest vision, and forge a strong foundation to soar to success. For more information, please see us at ldcstrategies.com or LaRaeCasdia.com. We would love to see you there. Today on the show, we have Scott and LaRae Wright. They are gifted teachers, seasoned executive coaches, transformational leaders with a passion for helping others become their very best. They work with entrepreneurs, couples, and individuals to accomplish big goals and life-changing dreams. They are rooted in wisdom of their own experiences. They nurture and support while living life with relentless passion and energy. They believe each individual is unique and tailors coaching engagements to meet everybody where they are, similarly to what we do here. They were married late in life, and their journey is not a linear path. They have seen many corners of the world, known and navigated loss, heartache, trauma, addiction, and daily frustrations with life. Committed to knowing themselves deeper, they have experienced their own personal transformations. Together, they now play in a creative energy of making a difference in society by creating a safe space for communication, vulnerability, and the discovery of one's talents and gifts. And as a side note, a very dear friend of mine actually worked with Scott and LaRae, and they literally saved her life. And she is such a cheerleader for Scott and LaRae, and I have recently met LaRae. She is a source to be reckoned with, without a doubt, and I no doubt think and believe that Scott is as well. And I want to welcome you to the show, Scott and LaRae. How are you?
We're great. Thank you, LaRae.
Thanks for letting us on. Good to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. So, I put a lot of information about you out there just now, and how you work with people. And we have similar styles on working with and coaching people. But I want to back it up for a second. And I really would like to know, how did your lives come together?
Well, that's a great story because, like we said, we came together late in life. I had been a corporate soldier for many, many years, 20-something years. And I really got to the point that no matter what I did, the money, the cars, the clothes, the travel, none of it was fulfilling. And I had never married, and I really quit working to look for a husband. And while that was a very disastrous experience for me, shortly after I stopped pursuing that, Scott and my lives reunited. We had known each other when we were younger, and so they reunited, and then I was way younger. But,
stop it. This is such a good story, and I totally relate with your being a soldier in corporate, and I was a soldier in corporate as well as politics, and it no longer resonated with me at all. It was actually harmful.
Right. And so when we came together again, we were both just in that place that we were looking for a very meaningful and conscious relationship in our lives.
Yeah.
We sort of knew who we weren't, and we also knew what we didn't want in terms of a companion. I had been down the path of what, I would call a power couple, and I really didn't perceive myself wanting a relationship that felt more like a merger than something that was coming together to really feed my soul and nurture my life.
Yes.
And so we do feel like we have a lot of power and energy vibrationally together, and we love the trip and the path that we're on. But it's very different than what I would have selected as a younger woman.
Yes, and I totally relate with that. It's funny. Years ago, I must have been in my 30s at the time. I saw a couple of couples together, and they just had this interesting, what I would refer as different relationship. They were by themselves, individually, totally self-sustaining, if you will. Together, they made each other even better. That relationship was what I always looked at and called the adult relationship, where they totally respected each other's independence, totally respected each other as whole people, but together made each other even better. And that was the relationship I had always been looking for, was that kind of conversation, that kind of intimacy, that kind of relationship that allowed us to be who we are in its entirety, good, bad, and ugly. And that's, right. I had only met up with 2 couples that represented that. And now I meet both of you, and I feel like there it is again. And I'm fortunate enough to have found someone to be able to say that I now have that myself, where individually we are absolutely self-sustaining and we are completely whole by ourselves. Together, we make each other better, and we make each other want to be even better. Do you find that with you and Scott?
I'm going to kind of just chime in because, when we were coming together, we'd both been on different paths, and as our lives crossed again, it was early on that we really felt this. I don't know if it's synchronicity. It was this kinship. It's like things came together for a reason. We felt that from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. We felt we had work to do. We each had our own individual work that we had been doing, but we needed each other to really take that to the next level. And one of the things that I used to say, it's a simple quote that I said in the beginning when we first started together. I was doing photography, and I would put this quote on there when there was pictures of the 2 of us, and it would say, "Alone we are miracles, together we are miraculous."
Oh.
Because that's really the way we felt about it. And that's not only true for us in the couples work that we do, that's what we try to instill in the couples. So they understand that they have an independence. They each are individuals and unique in their own way, but they can bring those things together with open communication and create something much bigger than just each of them are as individuals. So
true and so beautiful. So how did this path begin for you?
For me, when it all started, I had, as Ray kind of mentioned here earlier, I had to figure out who I wasn't first. I was one of those people that kind of had to learn things the hard way. One of the things that we mentioned to you in the information about ourselves was the battles that we've had with different things in our lives. Mm-hmm. And addiction was one of the things that I battled. And in that addiction, I guess I had to let it get dark enough for me to kind of wake me up. And that's the way my path went. And I had an awakening in 2008 that kind of shifted that trajectory of my life to a completely different place that I never would have anticipated. It was completely off the charts of anything that I knew, but took me to a much deeper place of a knowing, not in my mind, but within my soul and my heart.
So from our biggest challenges comes the opportunity for our biggest growth, right? And that sounds like what you went through.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's beautiful, because anybody that I've spoken to has transformed, and we talk about transformation. We talked about that when I did your introduction, and I too have had a transformation. That transformation occurs at those moments. At those moments, they can either be really, really large, or they can be really small if you pay attention. Most of us don't pay attention, and we wait till it gets really, really dark before we make the transformation choice.
You got to be slapped upside the head sometimes.
Yeah. Well, you know what, too, that we discover is that in order to know what we want, we actually have to know what we don't want first. So how do we know what we want if we don't know what we don't want? And that makes a whole lot of sense when someone says it, and as you're going through it, it's like, well, I want this. Well, how do you know you want that? You know, it's almost like, have you ever tasted chicken? No, I never tasted chicken. So how do you know you don't like chicken? You know, so we definitely need to experience what we don't want to really be able to narrow down what it is that makes us happy. What do we actually want? And it sounds like that was the journey you were on as well.
For sure. I think one of the things that we try and look at a lot of times is, you know, when we're feeling disconnected in those spaces, we're trying to evaluate it with our minds, but our thinking will never change who we are. It has to come from a deeper space within. And it was the feeling of the distance I was creating from myself, from God, from spirit, whatever word you want to use to describe it, that at a certain point it was like the elastic had stretched far enough, and now it was going to bounce back.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was very transformational, but just the beginning of learning for me. It started in 2008 and it continues today and will continue for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Always unfolding.
Yeah.
Always unfolding, always learning more, not only about ourselves, but what we're here to do, right? So as you began this path and you were doing the work, are you people who work with mentors or guides? Obviously, we're all in deep belief of our higher power, God, source, universe, however you refer to your higher power. But do you work with guides or mentors?
Yes, we have worked with different guides and in different situations too. I think the ones that we have worked with have been 2016 was when we really started that work, where we actually, it wasn't like we were looking for someone, just kind of showed up
right.
in our pathway. There's a quote, I think can't remember who said it, but it's when the teacher or when the student is ready, the teacher shows up, and that's kind of exactly what happened with us. And we had just gotten back from Peru, and we went on a trip to the UK, and we met a woman there who we really felt kinship with. Her name was Hazel, and we worked with her for a year, mentoring on some principles that neither one of us really had a concept of, and we continue to integrate those principles in our lives today. Again, it's one of those things that we never arrive at. We're always learning.
Right, and I remember that one of the first books she had us read was an amazing book by the name of
Coming Home
by Dickon Bettinger. And it really introduced these principles to us that shook us, because it was so simple that it was interesting for us to figure out how to live in that level of simplicity and really understand how our thinking created our reality, and that we were always in choice and we were always authoring that reality all the time. And it really pointed us very deep inside. And it's at that point that we started to live almost 100% from an inside-out perspective versus an outside-in.
Yes, well, we're taught, we are brought up to work from the outside in, and I say all the time, all of our success codes are already inside of us. So we need to merely dive into ourselves in order to have that expansion and learn more about ourselves. So I love that there's actually a book called Coming Home, you said, by Dickon Bettinger.
Dickon Bettinger. Yes.
Bettinger.
It's a beautiful book. And it really, at that point for me, it started to be more about unlearning. Everything that I had been rewarded for, everything where I had really, exercised, I talk about my exercised thinking muscles, I had to really surrender to putting those at ease and stepping out of what had always been my strength, how I had defined my strength, to really looking for different strengths. And it was at that time when everything in the world shifted for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And have you found, in my work, I have found that we all serve our former selves. Are you finding that your clients are your former selves?
Yes, very much so. It really is. We see versions of ourselves. That's when we know that the client is someone that we're to work with.
Yes, yes.
We do see a version of ourselves, and it's become so relatable because we tell them, we have been where you're at. We totally understand and appreciate where they're coming from.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's where the connection comes in. And isn't universe amazing? Because you say you happen to find to stumble across Hazel, but the teacher showed up because universe made sure that it was time. You had shown universe that you were ready for it, and that's when people and miracles happen. What we might refer to as miracles, where the people come into your life who are the next step. That's the next step you're supposed to be going on. So I love the process of, going through that. And now that I'm more aware of it, when it happens, I get all excited. I'm like, oh, yay, this is new. I'm so excited that this new person is coming in or this new experience is happening, because that means there's a bit of a shift in that I've earned that next step and I've earned that attention from, universe, God, source, however we refer to our higher power. I have another question for you, though. I have some insider information that, Scott, you are incredibly musical and you are incredibly talented. Have you always been musical?
Well, that's a great question. It actually came to me late in life. There's a kind of a story that goes with that. When I was a young boy, 7, 8 years old, my grandmother was the choir leader in the church choir. And she asked me if I would come and sing for the Christmas program. So I got up in front of the whole congregation at church one day and sang Away in a Manger. And after I did so, I was nervous, and so my voice kind of crackled, and I, kind of went up and down, and it wasn't really on tune. It definitely wasn't perfect. And I got teased by some of the kids around. And ever since then, it was such a traumatic event for me. Don't ask me why I made it so traumatic. It was just my personality that it took me to this place of, I never want to be in front of anyone performing or singing or doing anything like that ever again. I don't want to feel that again. And I continued to tell myself that story for a long, long time. And then years later, after we were together, I went through some experiences that I told myself for a long time I'm not musical. I didn't know how to read notes, didn't know how to do any of that. And I'm just going to speak frankly. The reason that this came to me was through the experience that I had in plant medicine. So in that experience of plant medicine, it helped me to get my mind out of the way. Now, I'm not a proponent of plant medicine for everybody out there in its different forms. When I say plant medicine, I'm talking about psychedelics. It's kind of a fad thing these days, but it's not something to be taken lightly. And if someone chooses to go into that, they need to do so with doing lots of research in who it is that they're doing that with. But my experience with that opened up like a new doorway to be able to play music. And what I learned was it helped me to stop the chatter of my mind. That old story I was saying to myself that I couldn't perform or I wouldn't perform or any of those things. I stopped saying I couldn't. When anyone asks me if I play an instrument, if I've never played that instrument before, all I say is not yet. Because now I don't play an instrument, I play music.
Yes.
And when that music comes through, it just comes through. All I have to do is get out of the way. We have had other mentors that have taught that, and it's get out of the way. So.
Yeah, and face that fear head on. And it's so funny. I feel like you guys were part of my family because a lot of the stories you're telling are very similar experiences to what has occurred for me. I was a studio singer, and long story short, and my listeners have heard this story before, but long story short, as a studio singer, I had a vice president come down, said, "Oh, you were so good, blah, blah, blah," went up to get signed as he was saying he was going to do. And of course, inappropriate actions were attempted. And I was like, no, that's not okay for me. And then suddenly I became the least talented person he had ever met. And for 10 years, I took away my own voice because of that experience. And one day I was sitting in a meeting. I'll never forget this. I was sitting in a meeting and this woman sat next to me, a young woman, and just looked at me, knowing nothing about me. And she said, "Why are you taking your own voice away?" And I looked away from her because she just caught me off guard and it really hit home. And when I looked back, she wasn't there anymore. And that stopped. That day, it stopped right then and there. I went back to singing, and then I'm a big advocate for people following their dreams, following their heart, not listening to one voice of one person, because it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It only matters what we think, right? So so that getting out of our head, getting out of our own way, that emotion that I felt the day that he said that, I was 19 at the time when he said that. So 10 years later it took me, but now they can't shut me up.
That's good.
So it's a really great thing. So where else do you perform, Scott? What are you doing with your music? How are you using your music?
let me go over that for you, but I just want to mention that what you just said, the experience that you had, I had a very similar one with Hazel. The first thing she said to me, I had given a presentation, and after the presentation, she came up to me and she said, "You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing." And I said, "I know." I really knew that there was more. I just didn't know what it was. And that was kind of the beginning of our exploration with Hazel, and she helped to guide us to this thing. So,
oh, I love that. You are listening to Healthy Lifestyle with LaRae. We are going to take a short break. We're going to continue our conversation with our beautiful friends Scott and LaRae Wright. They are amazing. There's a lot more to come. I really, really want to dive deeper into exactly how they work with people and more. So we'll just take a short break. We will be right back. Welcome back to Healthy Lifestyle with LaRae. I am LaRae Casdia. Whether your goal is improving your health, increasing prosperity in business, developing a business and marketing strategy, nurturing your spiritual growth, you are in the right place. I will help you shift your mindset, harness your talents, remove resistance, and rise above your limitations. You will be empowered to create the desired reality as you are guided. In the meantime, if you would like to be a guest or lift up your business, product, or not-for-profit, or if you have a question or comment, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. That's right, it's healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. Today we are talking about the human condition, being lost in thought, and we are speaking with Scott and LaRae Wright, who are unbelievable, gifted teachers, seasoned executive coaches, and transformational leaders. And that doesn't even really encompass what they do. They are amazing humans that I was just so privileged and am so privileged to have in my life and have access to and have been exposed to in such beautiful, beautiful ways. So when we last left off, we talked about, Scott, where you are playing your music and how you're utilizing your musical talents.
Right. So I've been recording. I actually have a lot of stuff I haven't published yet, but I've got 2 albums that I've put up on. It's on iTunes and Spotify and several other of the streaming services, but it's called The Observatory. And there's 2 albums along the same line. It's The Observatory Chakra Series, which is used for chakra clearing. And then the second album is called The Observatory Solfeggio Mix, which is Solfeggio. Solfeggio are certain frequencies that aren't aligned with the normal hertz and waves and frequencies of notes like we're used to that we listen to in music. So, and I created those albums just really they just flowed from the universe. And that's the way all of the music that I play is. I don't write anything down. I just set a foundation of a song and then just let it come through. We go in and do some recording sessions. I've got a recording guy that's become a very good friend, and we just go in and create. And it's not just me. There's other people playing with me as well. So it's been a great journey.
Oh my gosh. I listened to the Observatory Chakra series on Spotify. But Scott, it was absolutely gorgeous. I go to sleep every night with 528 hertz music, always, always, always. And it plays through the entire night. When I wake up in the morning, I stop it. And I've been actually listening to the Chakra series at night, and it is just so beautiful, just so amazing. So I really encourage everyone to go to Spotify. You had mentioned it's on iTunes as well. I'm sure it's in a bazillion different places, but the Observatory Chakra series and the Observatory. So I can never say this, the second series.
People say it differently too. Solfeggio is how I say it.
Solfeggio. Okay. Sounds very Italian. Solfeggio. And also I wanted to mention that you also are offering a free 30-minute coaching session. If you DM them on Instagram and use the code NOTHOUGHT, they will actually give you a 30-minute coaching session. It is worth your time to find them. Their social media Instagram handles are at realize_Asian and at LaRae_Wright. So I really encourage you doing that, because these these two individuals will change your lives. I promise you, they definitely will. I've known them for, I don't know, like a month now. And the impact that you have had on my life is just, I can't even say. I'm so appreciative of both of you so much. So back to you. Here's a question I really do like to ask is, 10 years ago, how different is your life now than you thought it was going to be 10 years ago?
Oh, my goodness. I'll start with that one. For me, I really believe that I would have gone back to corporate America and just continued with my career. It was, it was a great trajectory. I thought the only thing I was really missing was a relationship, and then I would return to what I had known. When in fact, when I found the relationship, the path took a very, specific turn. And now I do things that I never thought I'd do. We work with entrepreneurs, individuals, couples, and it's really helping everyone that we work with to know themselves better. And while we're not trained therapists, we are definitely mindset coaches, and we guide people to really see themselves in a different light and to help themselves understand the story they've been telling themselves.
Yes.
And how that can really limit them living in flow and in the scope of the full potential that they have while they're on this earth.
Isn't it interesting that, you saw that you needed to do this shift and you took notice of those guidance, I would say, messages for you to take that shift? You could have gone back to corporate America and gone back into that little hamster wheel. You made the choice. You saw the opportunity, and you went down a road, an uncharted path for yourself. And I think, to me, that's the definition of a superhero. That's the definition of someone really taking and embracing their own lives. And I really respect you for seeing it. A lot of times in my book, I talk about seeing the nudges from universe and not getting run over by the truck. I waited to get run over by the truck because I saw the nudges. I wasn't just taking the lead from the nudges. Now I try to get the notice at the nudge, because the truck running over is not fun.
Right. Well, and I think the other thing for me was that I was definitely being guided into an intimate partnership. I first felt that it was just marriage that I was missing, but it was much more, it was deeper than that. It was really not just a marriage would have resolved it. It was marrying the right partner and having that intimate partnership, because immediately, even before we got married, Scott became a mirror for me. And suddenly that mirror started to show me things about myself that I had believed were who and what I was, that was completely disconnected from what I really felt who I was.
You became that for me too.
Right. And so that's the book that we're working on together, is about that mirroring, to show how an intimate relationship can really mirror those patterns and behaviors that we are really unaware of, or that we believe are our strengths.
Oh my!
In fact, they're keeping us in a place that really limits us to our potential.
Oh my goodness, that you just gave me head to toe goosebumps. That's such a beautiful, beautiful story. And I think one of the inspiring things I find about you is that you work together and you continue to learn one another. And I love the thought of the mirroring each other as you thrive in each other's company. I think that's really, really beautiful. So with that, what kind of clients do you work with? I know you mentioned individuals. I know you work with groups, and I think you have a preference. I don't know if it's a preference, but you really like to work with couples.
Yeah, I think we when we meet with people, we really try to have at least one or two meetings with them where we're just kind of exploring. Mm-hmm. See if this is a fit. Do we fit you? Do you fit us? Because not all people work together. There's similarities in personalities and the way people see and the way they experience. And there's nothing wrong with saying no or going a different direction. But we've really been drawn to couples because of our own experiences and where we've been. I came from a failed marriage. I was divorced and single then 10 years. And then Ray had never married. And I love when she talks about some of her, the ones that she considered for marriage were like corporate mergers, she called them. It wasn't like a relationship. And that's not anything that felt like it was aligned to her. So we both came into it looking for something very connected. So when we work with other people, we want to do that. And where it's led for me, and Ray's is a little different than mine. Even the ones that I become aligned with a lot of times are men who have gone through difficult divorce situations and have had addiction as part of their lives. And that is what tends to be the space that I work in most.
And for me, I think couples are really intriguing for me because we find that there is such a blossoming that happens when couples really lean in to the masculine and feminine aspects of each of them. And it's so much more than gender. When I look at myself coming out of corporate America, I had really overly exercised my masculine tendencies.
Yeah.
I was a real decision maker. I really didn't need someone in my life to manage or handle decisions for me. I was very good at managing myself. But what I needed was a mirror to show me my feminine side and to appreciate my feminine side, because my work life had really tamed that aspect of me.
Oh my goodness. LaRae, did you find yourself, I don't mean to interrupt, but it just sparked a really deep question for me. Did you find yourself wanting to have someone in your life, but not needing to have someone in your life, and wanting to make sure that person understood, I want you here, I don't need you here, but I want you to do some of this stuff. Like, I can do this myself, but I really would like it if you did it. But I don't want to give up my, that masculine stance, because I was someone like you in corporate. We had to stand on our own 2 feet. We had to show that we had the strength to lead teams. But also it was hard to shake and get into that feminine side where you just allowed someone to take care of you. Did you find that with yourself as well?
Yes, I found, and I didn't know how to name it, but I knew how it felt when I was with someone that nurtured me at that feminine core.
Yeah.
That nurtured, had that gentle touch with me that would like move my hair out of my face and make me feel just so like feel myself.
Beautiful and seen. Yeah.
Feminine that I didn't feel when I was in my corporate suit, managing teams, making decisions, and running a budget.
Right.
We would go to a concert and I'd hear my voice laughing, and I would almost not recognize it because it just had this womanly and soft, feminine aspect to it that I had lost sight of a long time ago. It returned to that young woman that I was.
That little girl Lilt, yes.
Yeah, that was flirty and loved to be playful and, could laugh at myself and find things joyful. And I just hadn't been in that space for a long time. And like I said, I didn't know how to name it, but when I felt it, I knew that that's why he was in my life, was to bring that aspect of myself back into a stronger presence for myself.
Yeah, for me, it was the ability to feel safe enough to skip or to be that little girl again, or to just allow myself to twirl or do things that, I would never have thought to do over in the corporate stance. But I was safe enough to be that little girl again. And I loved her. I missed her so much that it's addictive. I don't want to do that corporate thing anymore. It doesn't resonate with me because, that's the little girl is who I really am. Right. So now I just want to transition this, because I love this conversation. It's so good. I want to transition this into, I understand you're starting a podcast in September, and I think that is fantastic. I also know you have a couples retreat that you're holding in October, and if anybody's interested, they should probably reach out to you. But you're also working on your first book together, and I love that. And you are already a publisher for 4 illustrated children's book, and one of them is Scott's The Sunflower Circle. I believe one of the other titles is Mommy, Why Is Your Hair Pink? Will You Believe in Me? A Story of Friendship and Skiing, and A Very Bear and the Butterfly. And all of those books can be found on Amazon. And how beautiful that you got into this. But my question is why podcast? Why now? What's it going to look like? And what's the energy behind that?
there's a couple of different things that we want to try and bring to the forefront. We want to really open up an open conversation to talk about living your life from the inside out. In whatever way that comes about, we want to have people on there that have manifested that in their lives. That's how they're living. We feel that authenticity is now such a valuable commodity for a human being to have because of what we've experienced over especially the last couple of years, of the inauthenticity that we see around us all the time.
Oh my, yes.
Authenticity and vulnerability become very, very important as we go through life. So in the work that we want to do, we want to open up an opportunity with the podcast for others to come and share their stories while we continue to share ours.
And especially the last couple of years, that, it's important for us to create a space where people can have that emotional safety, right? Emotional safety to express themselves, to really lean into their feelings, and to have emotional prosperity where they don't have to shy away from that emotional body, if you would, that incorporates their life, and really understand how thinking and emotions tie together. And a lot of times we end up feeling our thinking. And so just giving that awareness and continuing to build awareness for each individual. I think as each of us become more aware human beings, we step more and more into the power of who we are. And I believe that's going to be the aspect that really helps humanity evolve.
Yes, yes, yes. And I think that's why we've gone through what we've gone through the last couple of years, to get us to a place where people are feeling okay to come out and be vulnerable. Because if we don't face those fears, we don't start speaking our truths, we're going to be swallowed up by who we aren't. At least that's what I'm seeing, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and we definitely want to push in the direction where we can be our authentic selves, because that's what we're supposed to be. We can't all be the same. It would be boring, first of all. It would be incredibly boring. And two, I love different people because I learned so much from everybody else, and in meeting both of you, I've learned so much already. And again, it's been a month, but I've still learned so much through observation and listening to you and how you interact on the podcast. When you have people in, is it partial coaching? Is it, have we solidified the platform of it?
Yes, we're in the midst of doing that. In fact, we're going to be announcing the name. We've finished the research and the testing on the naming. We're so excited about that. So watch on our social media.
Oh, tell us now. No, I'm kidding.
It's mostly going to be conversations, and really deep conversations, and kind of conversations that invite vulnerability.
Yeah.
And so through modeling and, again, that mirroring that we have found to be so impactful in our own lives, just allowing that mirror to be held in a safe place for everyone that's listening, as well as those in the conversation, so that we share on a much deeper level.
I love it. That sounds so great. Okay, my last question to you is this, and I'd like both of you to answer it, is what's your why? Why do you do what you do?
You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll start. I think it's very simple. It's because, it fuels my own soul. So, for a long time, like I said, I worked from the outside in and did so many things that was the why for others, because I wanted to please, I wanted to be rewarded, I wanted to excel, I wanted to meet expectations. And now I just want to feel from my inside out to everyone and fill my cup with love every day, and just, like you said, appreciate everyone that I meet. I don't think there's any one way to go. I don't think there's any right or wrong way. I think all of our experiences in our lives are teachers. Some of them are harder. Some of them really stop us in our tracks, but all of them add to who we are. And my why is just that. So selfishly, my cup can continue to be filled. And by filling my cup, I can then give others, because I really also feel that you can't give what you don't have for yourself.
Agreed.
And, filling my cup first and then generously pouring from my cup to others.
Beautiful. And you, Scott?
For me, it's in the journey that I've had in my life up to this point, it was only when I turned my journey within, my vision within, that I was able to have concept of who I really was. I stopped looking at everything outside of me as what was causing my problems and started looking at my thoughts as they passed that I was attaching to, that was really the source of my suffering and all of the things that I needed to address in my life. And as I let that go and realized that it's like if you take the sky as our awareness of everything, thoughts are just like little clouds that pass in front of the sun. And then the sun is that ever emanating power of creator, which I say is love, that's emanating all the time around us. And the reason that I do it is I feel like that's the place that we can all connect in. And we connect there in creativity. And the only time we can find it is when we quiet our mind, become fully present, and connect. The radio channel gets turned on and tuned in to that frequency of creation. And then we can create from being rather than thinking. And when that happens, then the universe is manifesting through us. That's how my music comes about. That's how all of the creative work that I want to do is from that space, not from my thinking.
Well, there's nothing more to say than thank you so much to both of you for being on today. That's absolutely beautiful. I love your story. Would love to have you on after you launch your podcast and you have your book written. Love to have you back on. Again, if you want a free 30-minute coaching session, DM Scott and/or LaRae on Instagram. Use the code NOTHOUGHT at realize_ation or LaRae_Wright. In the meantime, thank you all for joining us today in Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I know you have a lot of choices, and that you spend the time with us just lifts my heart up, and I'm so grateful for all of you. Thank you all for joining us today on Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. Look for our show next Saturday at 3 p.m. Until next time, play a higher role, serve a higher purpose, show up for you, and show up big. Have a great day, everyone.